Have you ever wondered how a country rich in resources turned into chaos almost overnight? Libya's story is a stark reminder of the consequences of foreign intervention, but many people still don't grasp the full impact of those choices. Western intervention in Libya is one of the most controversial topics of the 21st century, and for good reason. The consequences of those actions have been catastrophic, leaving a once stable nation in shambles. Today, we're going to explore the story of how Libya went from a relatively stable country to a hotbed of chaos and violence. The Western world has a long history of involvement in Libya, from colonialism to economic interests. But in 2011, something changed. The Arab Spring protests swept across the region, and Libya was caught in the crossfire. As the situation escalated, the international community was faced with a difficult decision: intervene or stand by. The debate raged on, with some calling for a humanitarian intervention to protect civilians, while others warned of the unpredictable consequences of getting involved. But one thing was clear: the fate of Libya hung in the balance, and the world was watching. Libya, prior to the intervention, was a unique case. Muammar Gaddafi, the eccentric and often brutal leader, had ruled the country with an iron fist since 1969. Despite his questionable human rights record, Gaddafi had managed to maintain a level of stability and prosperity, thanks in part to the country's vast oil reserves. Gaddafi's Libya was a complex web of tribal allegiances and patronage networks, where the ruling elite maintained power through a delicate balance of repression and co-option. The Libyan people lived in a state of subdued dissatisfaction, with limited freedoms and opportunities, but despite these limitations, Libya was a relatively stable country with a high standard of living and a strong sense of national identity. The question is, how did it all go so wrong? The timeline of events leading up to the intervention is a complex one, full of twists and turns. It began with the Arab Spring protests, which quickly spread across Libya. Gaddafi responded with force, and the international community was faced with a dilemma: intervene or risk watching a humanitarian disaster unfold. NATO, led by the United States, Britain and France, took the decision to intervene, citing the need to protect civilians. The initial goal was to establish a no-fly zone, but it soon escalated into a full-blown military campaign. The Libyan military, under-equipped and under-trained, was no match for the NATO-led coalition. Gaddafi's forces were quickly defeated, and the leader himself was killed in October 2011. In the aftermath of Gaddafi's death, Libya plunged into chaos. The Transitional National Council, backed by the international community, was supposed to lead the transition to democracy, but in reality it was a weak and divided government, struggling to assert its authority. As the power vacuum grew, militant groups began to fill the space. The country was flooded with weapons, and extremist ideologies began to take hold. The situation was exacerbated by the lack of a clear strategy from the international community. The consequences of the intervention were catastrophic. Libya descended into chaos, with rival militias and terrorist groups vying for control. The country was plagued by insecurity, and the economy was in shambles. The humanitarian crisis was severe, with hundreds of thousands of people displaced and millions in need of aid. The world watched in horror as Libya, once a stable and prosperous nation, was torn apart by violence and instability. In the years that followed, various factions and international bodies tried to restore stability in Libya. The United Nations launched several initiatives, while regional powers like Egypt and the UAE attempted to broker a peace deal. But the task was Herculean. The country was deeply divided, and the mistrust between rival factions ran deep. The international community was hamstrung by its own divisions, unable to present a united front. Today, Libya remains a failed state, struggling to emerge from the ashes of its former self. The ongoing conflict has spawned a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions, with millions in need of aid. The story of Libya is a stark reminder of the consequences of foreign intervention. It's a cautionary tale about the unpredictability of regime change and the importance of understanding the complexities of geopolitics. The tragedy of Libya serves as a painful reminder of the importance of diplomacy and international cooperation. It's a lesson that the world would do well to learn, lest we repeat the mistakes of the past. In conclusion, the story of Libya is a complex and multifaceted one, full of twists and turns. It's a story that raises more questions than answers, and one that will continue to resonate for years to come. If you want to learn more about Libya's current situation, I encourage you to do your own research. There's a wealth of information out there, and it's essential that we stay informed about the complex issues shaping our world. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic, so please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.